Welcome all our listeners, viewers all over the world. I welcome you again to yet another wonderful time on Valiant Media Concept. Valiant Media Concept is a media concept on YouTube channel that provides details and analytical information to viewers all over the world. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please I encourage you to please do subscribe to this channel, because there are more other things that we are going to enjoy. Some of us that have subscribed will have seen some of our works in the past, so I want to encourage us to please subscribe, share, and like this channel. As you do that, blessing of God will continue to look for you.
Many Nigerians are angry because it's not peculiar to Nigeria. So anywhere in the world, when people hear about taxes, their initial reaction is to always want to push back and to just want to say no. So what we've actually seen is even the reform that is ongoing around taxation, while the bulk of those reforms are to reduce taxes, both the number of taxes, the tax rates, the tax burden. There are even instances where we share a post that is saying that small businesses have now been exempted, and you see comment there and somebody is still abusing us to say you don't know more than tax. So that's understandable for people to be angry, especially when they feel like they're not seeing the returns or benefit for the taxes that they pay. But I think it's also important for us because our objectives are the same. We want a better country for ourselves, that we should therefore be more attentive to the details of reforms. So it's not just everything that we have to then start complaining about, even when the intentions are for the benefit of the country. So these tax reforms, like you rightly mentioned, they are into 4 different laws. And altogether, these tax laws are introducing over 200 measures and changes to the tax system, because there's always the temptation to go with a single story or a single narrative. There was a time when we're still working on the bills with the National Assembly that you would think that the whole bill was about VAT sharing formula. So in the past few days now, it's been about the surcharge on fuel. A couple of weeks before then, it was about the 800,000 0%, and anything above that, people will pay 20%. And some of these things are just people not fully understanding what the law provides, and people who either, for whatever reasons, just decide to cook up things that they don't even fully understand. And suddenly, everybody is a tax expert trying to analyze what the tax law says. And sometimes they say it with so much confidence, and you want to believe what they're saying, even when it is wrong. So, thanks to Channel for this platform to try and clarify some of the issues. And my job here today is not to try and speak for the government. That's not the job that's been given to me. It's to lead some very patriotic and eminent Nigerians from all walks of life to try and reform an important aspect of our economy. So that's what I'm here for. So the proverbial, elephant and the blind man is that the blind man touching the elephant and seeing different parts of it, and they concluded, one thought it was a fan, one thought it was, a snake, one thought it was a spear, and so on and so forth, and none of them got the right answer because they did not see the big picture or the complete picture. So my encouragement to Nigerians is just spend time and look at details of those laws. We've shared them, on our website, fiscalreforms.ng. You can download copies of those laws. You see a lot of analysis we have done. Because at the end of the day, if you don't focus on what will benefit you, you may just miss out on the advantages of the reforms. One thing I can tell you with all sincerity is that those reforms will benefit all Nigerians, particularly the low income, middle income, as well as small businesses, as well as industries as well, including manufacturers. So having said that, let me quickly speak to the surcharge on fuel. So one very important message for people to know is that this surcharge was not introduced by this government. It was introduced in 2007. And then it wasn't implemented because government was subsidizing fuel. So while we were doing this tax reform, it wasn't even in the original proposal. So it wasn't like the president proposed it to the National Assembly. But in the process of working on the bills, these issues came up. And then the decision was made that we shouldn't have different agencies collecting taxes. So the law that set up these surcharge mandated FEMA, that's the Federal Road Maintenance Agency, to collect this surcharge. 40% of it was to be for federal government roads, and 60% was meant to go to states of the revenue collected. Like I said, it wasn't implemented. And because of this reform, many taxes, so many of them were repealed from our laws. For example, there was a tax introduced on telecommunication by the previous administration that was already removed from the law as we speak. There was one on cybersecurity that has now been harmonized, and so on and so forth. So many taxes, people easily say that President Tinubu is a tax master, he's introducing taxes, but I'll challenge anybody to tell me, one tax that this president has introduced. So most of the taxes, even the cybersecurity levy, was introduced in the previous administration. But to prevent that has been implemented arbitrarily without proper consideration for the stage of the economy, issues around inflation. So the decision was made to put this in the new law and to put a commencement date that is going to be in the future based on an order to be gazetted by the minister. So nobody will just, spontaneously introduce the tax and create problems for the system. So actually, I can tell you that before these tax laws were enacted, shortly after it was signed, there was already an attempt by the agency to even collect the tax. And we have to say to them, you have to wait, you can't collect it because the new law says you are not the one to collect, and commencement will not happen until the minister says so. So there's nothing that says this tax will start 1st of January 2026. People need to get that right. TUC that is planning to go on strike to say it should be removed. I don't know what they want government to remove because it hasn't been imposed. And there's no regulation that says it will be imposed from January. The TUC should have complained and protested when this was introduced since 2007. So we only put it into the new tax law as part of the legislative process for transparency and for orderly implementation. I know everybody is concerned about the impact on inflation. I'm concerned myself. But we also know that around the world, road infrastructure is very critical. Nigeria has close to about 200,000 kilometers of road. Only about 60,000 of them are paved. This is the major reason why transporting anything in Nigeria, whether it's good, whether it's people, it's costly, it's time-consuming, and it's not very safe. If you look at the rural inflation on food and you compare it with inflation on food in the urban center, sometimes the difference is as high as 500 basis points. That's about 5%. In most countries, that will be under 1%. And the majority of the issues that we are dealing with are to do with the state of the road, are to do with illegal taxes being collected at every point when you are moving things around. All those issues are being addressed. We have to recognize that even with the removal of subsidy on fuel, which is helping government to address some of the revenue challenges, that the huge gap that we still have in terms of infrastructural development is not going to be addressed by those revenues alone. So the idea is for the country to try and mobilize revenue in a way that does not create economic distortion, that does not burden the poor and vulnerable, and so on and so forth. Some of the strategy for this, surcharge could be to time it at a time when there is an appreciation in the value of the currency. Naira gained about 1% just yesterday alone. If Naira gains about 5%, and then you put in this tax, nobody will notice there won't be changes in the pump price. Or if the price of crude oil in the international market drops by around 5%, you can also have it at that point. And then we can all focus on how do you spend this money to ensure that it's dedicated to fixing roads that can make all our lives better and bring down the prices of items. For example, we have the road infrastructure tax credits. that is done with the private sector. And we've seen the advantages. People who live in Apapa in Lagos, for example, will not make any complaints at all. Based on that policy, the likes of Dangote, NLNG, Lafarge, MTN are fixing roads. No, there's nothing that says we can't have a similar arrangement for the private sector to be involved in ensuring that this money is efficiently utilized. So I think people need to try and take a step back and think about how can these work for our country. And if you all conclude that it can't work, then of course the process is there for the National Assembly to then remove it from the law. So I'll then quickly speak to a few other issues where I see a lot of misconception and misunderstanding in the public space. There's this general assumption in Nigeria that you can simply say that is your life better today than it was 2 years ago. And you then quickly jump into a conclusion that says no, and therefore it means that all the policies are bad. But I always say that that is a very wrong basis unless you are selling land. Other than that, you buy and sell shares in the capital market up to 150 million naira a year, you don't pay tax. You sell your car up to 2 cars a year, you don't pay tax. Yeah, the home that you own, you don't pay tax. Practically everything, the capital gains tax has been removed. Same thing with stamp duties, and I can go on and on. And these things are written in black and white in those tax laws. So actually, the objective of this tax reform is to provide relief to the Nigerian people come January 2026 and going forward.
When people hear tax, they don't want to hear anything else, especially in climes where they feel that the government is not doing enough. Across governments, they don't see, as you've alluded to, they feel that they provide their own security, their own this, their own that, and the list is endless. But before I ask the next question from this person, people who are into, a lot of young people now are into Forex, trading, assets and instruments. Are they going to be paying tax as well? They make lots of money, but so that they are clear on how to manage their tax. If you can answer that in 1 minute.
Great question, Jeffrey. So before these new tax laws, if you were dealing in crypto, for example, or forex trading, you were being taxed on when you make a gain, and there was no tax relief when you make losses, which was not really fair. So this new tax law says if you make gains from crypto or any virtual asset or any other activity, we will consider your overall situation. Like, for example, you could have bought crypto when it was $80,000 and then it went down to 60, you made losses. You bought some of them at 70, it went up to 100, you made some gains. This new tax law says bring all of it together, and only when there's a net gain should you pay tax. And if the gain is small, your tax is 0%. So this is what fairness looks like everywhere in the world, and that's what has been introduced now. So people just need to understand what the changes are and how it will benefit them so they can apply it out of knowledge, being well informed rather than just going with public narrative, majority of which are incorrect.
All right, I think this may be the last one. Adejuwon Cornelius says, I think this is, I don't know what it is for everybody. We try to ask questions that are common to all, but let's also take his own concern. The issue of capital allowance, can you explain further? Also, the issue of production day certificate, PDC, can you explain too? I'm sure you understand him.
Yes, so the issue of production day certificate is for tax incentives, something we call economic development incentive. So if you operate in certain sectors, from agri to manufacturing and so on, under this new tax law, you have an incentive of between 5 to 10 years for which you will not pay tax. But government needs to validate that you are doing genuine business, not that you get the incentive and you start importing items. Once all of those validations are done, you are given what we call a certificate of production date to certify that you can now enjoy the incentive. So the detailed provisions are in the tax law. And the capital allowance provision that the person also asks is we've reformed it so that when you buy an asset, you can enjoy tax deduction on the cost of that asset over a period of time that is more reasonable and aligned with modern day reality, so that the pressure on your cash flow and working capital of the business is reduced, because we really want you to grow, not borrowing money at high interest rates to be tied down in taxes and levies to the government. Okay. So these are some of the reforms that we have in the new tax laws.
All right, Mr. Oyedele, 2 questions in one, if you can help us answer in 2 minutes. Content creators are asking questions about how they will be taxed. Content creators, you know how they earn their money. That's on one hand. The other hand is, what do you think, because now the tax nets, all of these tax policies, as you say, is to bring relief and make the system work better, but it's also going to accrue revenue in some parts of the government. How should people now be able to hold government to account? Because for some of us who are journalists, if our aggression it was 10, it's going to be 1 million now, because we know that the government is going to look for, yeah, I can promise you that. So content creation and accountability.
Yes, so if you're a content creator, you know, your tax is not different from the person who is buying and selling spare parts or mobile phones. You will declare the income that you earn from your content creation activities. If you have expenses, for example, you need to look good, maybe you buy more, you know, things to wear, you promote your channels, and you pay to, you know, all these Google and all of them. So you take all that expenses away, and whatever is left is your taxable income, and you apply the table like anybody else. If you are a content creator and you operate as a company, up to 100 million naira that you earn, you don't even pay tax on it. You know, like, this just looks like too good to be true, but it's there in the tax law. So what I would advise you as a content creator, or anyone for that matter, is read the law. If you can't read it because it's a bit boring and it's a lot, follow analysis from very objective sources. You can go to our website, fiscalreforms.ng, and there are some, you know, organizations that are credible, you know, NESD, you know, top accounting firms, and so on and so forth. See what they analyze. It will help you a lot. And we have various platforms, particularly for small businesses, where we've been engaging and explaining these things to them. We'll do more of it in the coming days, including engagement in local languages. So that is on that. And you can see on the screen how you can follow us on social media, on our website. Now, to the question of accountability, this is something that is so important to all of us, including myself, because the reason why the countries that work are working is because people pay taxes and there's accountability to utilize those resources for the benefit of the people. I always say that, you know, so it costs you more to put up 1 million boreholes for 1 million households than it is for 1 million households to pay a little and for government to provide, you know, water for all of them. The same goes for whether it's electricity or anything else. So it's a well-established principle globally and over the history of mankind that taxation is meant to help society, if only it's operated effectively with transparency and with honesty. So that's what we need to demand for. So what I will encourage is, first and foremost, people need to have the right knowledge. You cannot demand accountability on the wrong knowledge or no knowledge at all. Number two is pay attention to what government is doing. If you go to our website now, for example, and you go to our social media account, you find our followers is probably maybe even less than 5,000, right? But then if there's something to show someone who is doing something that adds no value to human life, you may find they have 5 million followers. What are we paying attention to? Whatever you pay attention to, politicians also pay attention to them. So we have to show that these things are important to us so that they can start paying attention to them. And then lastly, is to ask questions and to be very deliberate in how we make our decisions about our governance. And that includes the elections, that includes your engagement during the budgeting process, that includes how you engage with your constituency representatives, local government, states. In Nigeria, we spend like 90%, in my estimation, of our efforts on just the federal government alone. But guess what? The biggest impact on the people is actually at the local level, followed by the states. And we're not asking enough questions. Let's start asking those questions. And where necessary, feel free to take government to court and ask them for details. Those provisions are there. You can use platforms and associations to do some of these things if you cannot do it alone.
All right.
There's no reason why, and you've seen that done by some of the organizations, how government is spending money across Nigeria. Let's follow them, encourage them, and amplify their voices. And overall, as a country, we'll be able to promote better accountability for a better nation.
Mr. Oyedele, I know you do a lot of the heavy lifting. This is how they can calculate their taxes. So all you have to do is, if you have a QR code on your phone, you can do that. Whatever your bracket is, you'll be able to know what taxes you
Thank you very much for watching. See you another time. Once again, if you have not subscribed, please do subscribe. Valiant Media Concept. Valiant Media Concept. God bless you. See you again. Bye-bye.